One of the most exciting parts about Starfield is its return to deep RPG systems and mechanics, and the skill system in the game is one of the best examples of this. So in this video, we're going to be going over all of the skills in Starfield, and I'll have a link in the description to the site I'm using that compiled all of this information. Now, skills in Starfield are going to have an interesting mix of the skill system in Fallout and the skill system in Oblivion. So once you level up, you get skill points that you use to put in any of the different skills you want, but you also have to complete objectives by using that skill to actually unlock those ranks. So for instance, if you're putting points into the lock picking skill, you would have to pick 5 locks to unlock rank 1. So you actually have to use that skill to get the upgrades into that skill, even if you've already put in the points into that skill itself. And there are going to be 5 different skill categories: physical skills, social skills, combat skills, science skills, that are all in their own separate skill trees. And there's going to be 82 total skills split between these 5 categories. And then there are going to be 4 ranks for every single skill. So if you wanted to max out a skill, you would need 4 skill points, and you would have to complete 4 different objectives to get all of those different ranks. And if you're enjoying my Starfield coverage, make sure to subscribe. This channel is solely based on Starfield, and we have tons of videos coming soon. So first off, we have physical skills, starting with boxing. And with boxing, you do more damage in unarmed attacks, you use less O2 when using a power attack and running, and you have a chance to knock down enemies. Then we have fitness. You have more oxygen available, and you use less O2 when sprinting or making power attacks. And oxygen is basically just going to be your stamina in Starfield. Then next up, we have stealth. It adds a stealth meter. It makes you more difficult to detect, and you deal additional sneak attack damage. And doors you interact with while in stealth no longer alert enemies. And as you'll continue to see as we continue to go through all these skills, some of these skills add a ton of new elements into that gameplay that skill is based around. So these skills aren't just increasing damage or increasing some percentage or base value. It's actually adding in new systems and mechanics. Then next up, we have weightlifting. Increases your total carrying capacity, and you gain resistance to stagger. And then we have wellness, which just increases your max life. So pretty basic one, but even though this one's pretty basic, it'll probably be incredibly strong, especially when you get to rank 4 and you just have 40% increased life. That's pretty big. So then we have energy weapon dissipation. Your energy damage is reduced, and you have a chance to reflect energy damage back to the attacker. And energy damage is just going to be one of the damaging types in the game. Then we have environmental conditioning, and you gain resistance to environmental damage. And as shown in the ranks, environmental damage is going to be airborne, thermal, corrosive, and radiation. Then next up, we have gymnastics. You gain a combat slide ability, you take less fall damage, you move faster in 0G, and you have increased jump height. And if you're going to be playing a character where you're just going to be doing combat a lot, this is probably one of the ones you're going to want to be taking pretty early on if you can complete the objectives to get the different ranks, because this just adds a ton of new movement style abilities into the game, and I think it'll just generally make movement while in combat much more enjoyable. Then we have nutrition. Food and drink are more effective, and this goes up to 50% at rank 4, so this is also pretty massive. And presumably food and drink is just going to be like restoring health or other elements. I'm wondering if they're also going to be giving you different buffs. Then we have pain tolerance, which reduces physical damage. And at rank 4, you have a chance to ignore any physical damage when your health is low, which is a really low chance, but you can just completely ignore physical damage that was done to you. Then we have cellular regeneration. Increases chance to recover from injuries naturally. And then again at rank 4, it is a 20% chance of not gaining an injury when you otherwise would. And I'm actually pretty curious to see how injuries are going to work. I'm wondering how exactly this is going to work. Then we have decontamination. Increases chance to recover from infections naturally. And again at rank 4, a 20% chance of not gaining an infection when you otherwise would. So there's definitely going to be quite a lot of more survival-esque elements in Starfield. You're going to be getting infections, you're going to have environmental hazard, you're going to be sustaining different injuries when in combat, and then you're also going to have food, water, and health. So there's going to be quite a lot of different things to keep an eye on. Then we have martial arts. Increased chance to crit with a melee or unarmed attack, a chance to disarm an enemy, you take reduced damage, and you can reflect damage back to the attacker. And that reflect damage is at rank 4, and you reflect 50% of damage back when blocking a melee or unarmed attack. And I would be very surprised if there wasn't like some fight arena or fight ring or something that you could take part in at some point in the game and become a champion in. Maybe something similar to the arena in Oblivion. So this could be very strong for that. Then we have concealment. Range and melee sneak attacks will deal more damage. You have increased stealth ability, and you are invisible to traps. So again, another one of those skills that's going to add a ton of different elements to play around with. Then we have Neuro Strikes. Chance to stun an NPC with an unarmed attack. You deal additional EM damage, and after you stun an enemy, you also knock down any enemies within a close range. And this one was actually detailed by the developers in the last showcase, where if you want to do an unarmed build, this is going to be one of the most important parts. This is also the part in the showcase where they uppercut a guy and he just gets launched across the map. Then finally, we have Rejuvenation. Regenerate health outside of combat and while in combat. So as you go through these ranks, you'll not only be regenerating outside of combat, but then you also get all of this health regeneration while in combat. I think this one's actually going to be incredibly strong, and depending on how much health this will actually regenerate, this could end up saving you actually a ton of resources, because instead of having to eat or drink or use med packs, you'll just be regenerating over time. So you could be making a ton more money selling all of those resources and just healing off of this skill. And then next up, we have social skills, starting with commerce. You buy items for less and sell items for more. And I'm pretty curious if this is going to work for everything at any vendor, because as detailed in the showcase, you can buy entire ships. Some of these ships were worth hundreds of thousands. I think some of the ships they shown were actually worth millions of credits. So if you have rank 4 of this and you take 20% off an entire ship, that's pretty massive if you're looking at buying some much more high-end ships. Then we have gastronomy. Craft specialty food and drinks and research additional recipes. So crafting different foods and drinks seems like it's going to be pretty important. Seems like these are going to give you different buffs, but now you're also able to research additional recipes, and researching is going to be a pretty important piece of the game if you're trying to craft anything at all. And this does also specifically mention crafting exotic recipes, so it does seem like a lot of these recipes or food and drinks are going to give you some specific buffs. Then we have persuasion, increased chance of success when persuading somebody. Then we have scavenging. Resources will get highlighted when using the hand scanner, and better loot from containers. Now rank 4 is what gives you that tracked resources will get highlighted, which is a pretty big buff, but then you're also just going to be getting more loot out of all containers. So this is going to be really good for anybody that just loots absolutely everything. Then we have theft, unlock, and improve pickpocketing ability. So the rank 1 of this actually unlocks the ability to pickpocket somebody. So again, another pretty important skill if you want to actually partake in that system. And one of the interesting parts at rank 4 is you can now pickpocket holstered weapons. Now we do know there's going to be up to legendary weapons and they're going to have the rarity system. I'm interested to see if there's going to be unique named weapons, because it would be pretty crazy to be able to get the max rank of this and literally pickpocket a unique weapon from like some mini boss somewhere or something. Then we have deception. Ships more easily surrender to piracy demands. So rank 4 of this, ships 50% stronger will automatically surrender to piracy demands. I assume piracy demands are probably you pay me or we destroy you. And then also enemy contraband scans are 50% less effective. So this also ties in to the contraband system in the game, where you can put contraband on your ship and then you put a different module on your ship that helps to shield that contraband from being scanned by different factions. And this seems like this is also going to play into that. Then we have diplomacy. Force a target NPC to stop fighting. And this skill is probably going to be required for pacifist runs, especially for rank 4. You can force target NPCs to permanently stop fighting unless they're attacked again. That's pretty massive. There's definitely going to be people doing full pacifist runs, specifically because of rank 4 of this skill. Then we have intimidation, ability to strike fear into an opponent, causing them to flee. So this is basically a fear. And then we have isolation, bonus damage and resistance when you don't have a companion. And these are some pretty big buffs buffs once you get into the higher ranks, and this will probably work pretty well with introvert, which is one of the traits. So there's definitely going to be some combinations between backgrounds, traits, and your skills. Then we have negotiation, activates, and upgrades bribery in speech challenges. So rank 1 actually gives you the ability to bribe people in speech. So if you're somebody that really wants to focus into the speech systems, this is something you're also going to want. Then we have instigation, force a target NPC to attack their allies. And rank 4 gets pretty crazy. Enemies affected by this will attack their allies until they die. So basically when you do this, you have what's technically an ally, or at least somebody that's going to help you in combat until they legitimately die, or I guess until everybody else is dead. Then we have leadership. This improves your companion's performance. So this just increases basically everything about your companion, from how fast you gain affinity to them, to more health, to more carrying capacity, to even giving a chance to pick themselves up when downed. Then we have outpost management, and this will improve your outpost performance. So you can link additional cargo routes between your outposts, you can have more robots come to your outposts, you can have more crew assigned to your outposts, and you can improve your extractors at your outposts. And this is definitely going to be probably one of the first things a lot of people take, because there's definitely going to be people that just want to go build outposts on every planet they come across. Then we have manipulation, force a target NPC to obey commands. And this may seem a bit similar to one of the previous skills, but this one, you're basically mind controlling an NPC to do what you want. The other one was basically just making an NPC attack their friends, not necessarily not attack you. Then we have ship command, increases the number of active crew members available. And at rank 4, you can have up to 8 active crew members, but also keep in mind, depending on how upgraded your ship is also going to limit how many crew you can have on that ship. So you're going to need a big ship and this skill to actually be able to get a bunch of crew members, which seems to be at a max of 8, which is pretty crazy. Imagine just getting out of your cockpit, walking on your ship, and having 8 different people you could go talk to. And then finally, we have xenosociology, force alien creatures to obey commands. So you're basically just mind controlling alien creatures or different species you find on the different planets. This could potentially be ridiculously strong if you come across some really strong or dangerous creatures. And then next up, we have combat skills, starting with ballistics, increase damage dealt, and range with ballistic weapons. And ballistic weapons are just going to be one of the weapon types, and these are going to be more real world weapons, pistols, shotguns, rifles. They use normal bullets. Then we have dueling, increases damage dealt with melee weapons and has upgrades for damage taken and healing. So for instance, rank 4 melee kills will heal you for 10% of your health. So there's going to be some pretty crazy melee builds. Then we have lasers, increase damage dealt and range with laser weapons, and set a target on fire. The target on fire is rank 4, has a small chance of 5% to set a target on fire when shooting them with a laser weapon. So if you had a very fast firing laser weapon and the fire actually did a lot of damage, that could be pretty good, especially on like boss fights. Then we have pistol certification, increases damage dealt with pistols and their critical hit chance. And then we have shotgun certification, increases damage dealt with shotguns and a chance to stun. So the pistols gave increased critical strike chance after killing someone with a pistol. Now the shotguns give you an increased chance to stun. I'm assuming a lot of the different weapon types may have different effects like this in their skills. Then we have demolitions, increased damage dealt and radius with explosives. So if you're somebody that wants to be lobbing grenades and mines around, you're going to be wanting this. Then we have heavy weapon certification, increases damage dealt with heavy weapons. And at rank 4, you'll also gain physical resistance while aiming down sights with a heavy weapon, and I'm not sure what everything is going to be considered a heavy weapon, but presumably rocket launchers, grenade launchers, miniguns, stuff like that. The bigger, much more substantial weapons. Then we have incapacitation, increases damage dealt with EM weapons. And this is just another one of the damage types in the game. Then we have particle beams, increases damage dealt with particle beams and crit chance. So this is a little bit similar to the pistols, except this just gives you 5% crit chance at rank 4 instead of a procced chance. Then we have rifle certification, increases damage dealt with rifles and faster reload. And the faster reload is at rank 4 and it's only when you're standing still. If you're trying to use AKs as shown by the badge itself, you're definitely going to want to be going into this. Then we have marksmanship, increased critical strike chance with non-automatic ranged weapons. So if you're wanting to snipe or even use something like DMRs that aren't fully automatic, this is probably going to be very strong. And if I know previous Bethesda games, precision weapons like this are usually usually very strong. Then we have rapid reloading, faster and more effective weapons reload. And if you're wanting to do a lot of ground combat, you'll probably want this, especially for rank 4 that just has a chance when hitting enemies to give you increased reload speed by 50% for 15 seconds. That'll be pretty massive when in combat. Then we have sniper certification, more effective shooting with scoped weapons. And it's pretty interesting that this is just scope weapons because you still should be able to put scopes on, say, fully automatic weapons. So this could actually affect a lot of different weapons. And probably most weapons you can use will probably be able to be scoped. And then next up we have targeting, increased accuracy and range when shooting without aiming. So this is kind of the opposite of sniper certification. And then we have armor penetration, attacks ignore part of a target's armor. Then we have crippling, enemies have increased chance to enter a downed state. So this is basically just injuring enemies, taking them out of the fight. And then finally we have sharpshooting, increased critical damage with ranged weapons. So this is basically all ranged weapons. So this seems like it's going to be very strong mixed with a bunch of these other more general weapon perks if you're somebody that's going to want to be focusing a lot on ground combat. And then next up we have science skills, starting with astrodynamics, upgrades your ship's grav drive, its range, and it has reduced fuel costs. So this upgrades basically everything to do with your grav drive. And something that's pretty important in Starfield is to even get to faraway planets or faraway systems, you'll actually have to either upgrade your grav drive on your ship or upgrade your grav drive through these different skills. Then next up we have geology. You obtain more common and uncommon inorganic resources from surface objects, and the rank 4 of this also has a chance for you to get rarer resources, so most likely higher tier resources. We know resources go up to legendary, so this is definitely going to be pretty important if you're somebody that's going to want to focus on getting all these different resources for maybe outpost creation or researching different things and going more into the crafting portions of the game. Then we have medicine, med packs, trauma packs, and emergency kits work faster and restore more health. So this is probably going to be pretty strong for most players. Just getting more healing from all the different healing resources in the game is going to be pretty strong. Then we have research methods, reduce resources to craft and complete research. And this is going to be very important if you want to do any crafting, because basically all of the crafting in Starfield is going to require you actually research the ability to craft that thing, then you go into crafting it. So if you want to craft different weapons, different spacesuits, different pieces for your outposts, if you want to craft different attachments for your weapons, if you want to learn how to craft different cooking recipes, all of that is going to be done through the research system first. Then we have surveying, adds a zoom to the hand scanner and has increased scan distance, and every single planet in the game you're going to be able to go to it and scan it, and there will be completions and completion rewards for scanning a bunch of different planets. So maybe scanning all the planets in an area or in a certain system. And then we have botany, get more organic resources from plants and learn additional information from them. So just like the inorganic objects, you're going to be getting more and higher rarity of plants or organic resources from these planets, which are probably going to be more important for something like cooking. Then we have scanning, ability to detect uncommon, rare, exotic, and unique resources on the surface of planets. And you're also able to scan ships to learn some of what they have in their cargo, or at rank 4, you're able to get a complete list of everything in their cargo. So maybe if there's some ship you come across and maybe they're neutral or friendly, maybe they have something super rare in their cargo hold, you may want to try to either steal that or force them to give it to you. Then we have a spacesuit design, craft improved spacesuits and research additional mods. So this is probably going to be really strong for any time you're in a spacesuit if you're wanting to get those much better spacesuits, which basically work as the armor in Starfield, and if you want to get more mods for them. Then we have weapon engineering, craft improved weapon mods and research additional weapon mods. This is probably something I'll definitely be going into. We know that weapons can have a ridiculous amount of mods, especially when you get to the higher rarities. I think we've seen up to 11 possible weapon mods on a singular weapon. So there's probably going to be some pretty ridiculous mods that you can get on certain weapons. Then we have zoology, get organic resources from creatures without harming them and learn additional information from them. So this also ties ties into scanning. So now when you're scanning these organic creatures, you'll get more information and you can harvest resources from them without harming them. And I think this is also going to play into your outposts, because we do know with your outposts, if you build them near certain creatures, that you can harvest resources from them without killing them. So this will probably play into your outposts as well. Then we have astrophysics, improved scanning ability, and scanning range. So this type of scanning is for your ship. You're able to scan planets much further away, and this also gives you a chance to discover traits of planets or moons when scanning them. And I'm not sure exactly what these traits are going to be. I'm assuming it's probably going to be some type of information based on what type of environmental hazards you could potentially find on that planet or moon. Then we have chemistry, improved research, and creation of chems. So this is going to be incredibly strong if you're somebody that doesn't forget to use all the different chems and buffs you have in your inventory. I know a lot of people don't end up using those. They'll just end up saving them forever, but a lot of these can be very strong. Then we have outpost engineering, construct and research improved outpost modules. So if you're somebody that wants to be going into outposts, this is going to be one of the first things you should be going into. And this does actually give us some new information that I wasn't aware of, that there are actually going to be different tiers of what's seeming like the same modules. So with rank 3, you can research and construct cutting edge outpost modules. So it seems like there's actually different tiers of these same modules, which will be pretty important for getting much more high tier and bigger outposts. And then next up, we have a neutronic fusion. You get extra power from your ship's reactors. Now this is going to play into the ship combat and basically the ship minigame, where you have all the different elements of your ship. So your grav drives, your shields, your weapons, and you can allocate your power from your ship to whichever one of those systems you want whenever you want when flying your ship. So if you're in combat, you may want to transfer a bunch of that power to your weapons or your shields, and this will increase the amount of power your ship actually has. Then we have planetary habitation, increases the number of buildable outposts and allows you to build outposts on planets with extreme conditions. So we're just getting more and more outpost skills. So this skill will actually just allow you to have more outposts on more different planets. And you'll need this if you want to build outposts on planets with really extreme conditions, especially more extreme gravity. And then we have special projects, research experimental projects, craft rare, exotic, and unique manufactured components. So if you're somebody that's going to want to be crafting a lot, crafting different cool weapons or mods or food or anything like that, special projects is going to be very important. Now this is specifically for the research side, but you need a researcher to actually be able to craft it. And it is very interesting that they specifically mention unique components here. So I'm wondering if there's also going to be like a unique rarity that you can craft much more unique and specialized items. And then next up, we have tech skills, starting with ballistic weapon systems. Your ship's ballistic weapons deal increased damage, and there's going to be a bunch of different versions of this for all of the different weapon systems you can have on your ships. And then we have boost pack training. Can use boost packs, less fuel, and faster regeneration. Now it's very interesting with this, and this actually was talked about by Pete Hines recently in one of his interviews, that you actually have to have rank 1 of this to even use boost packs, because you can get boost packs and they just won't work without the rank 1 of this skill. And with multiple developers talking about these boost packs, it sounds like this is something you're very much going to want to go into pretty early, because this is going to help you move around on the ground and explore planets much more quickly. And then we have piloting, unlock higher tier ships and ship thrusters, increase ship maneuverability. And what's really interesting with this one is that you actually unlock the ability to pilot Class B and Class C ships at rank 3 and rank 4. So there's actually going to be different classes of ships, and you legitimately cannot fly the higher classes if you don't know how to. So it seems like even if you capture like a really high tier ship, you wouldn't be able to actually fly it yet. And then we have security, can unlock higher tier locks and eliminate locks. And this was one of the skills that the developers went over in recent showcases, probably because this is a good example of skills that unlock new mechanics in that type of content you're going for. So this will add a bunch of different elements to the lock picking system. And then next we have targeting control systems, unlocks ship targeting, improves time to lock onto enemy ships. So you actually need rank 1 of this to unlock the ship targeting functionality. And how this was described was you can now target different sections of the different ships. So maybe you could target their weapon systems, or maybe you could target their thrusters, or any piece of their ship you could specifically target and try to destroy. Then we have energy weapon systems, increases the damage of your energy weapons and their recharge rates. Then we have engine systems, improve ship speed and ship boosts. So if you're trying to go really fast in your ships, this is what you're going to want to be going into. Then we have payloads, bigger capacity of cargo holds. So this is going to be really good if you want to be running cargo or if you want to be smuggling, because this just increases the capacity of your cargo holds, so you'll be able to carry more of anything you want. Then we have shield systems, increases ship shield capacity. And at rank 4 of this, your shields will occasionally resist 100% of all damage received. So there's just a chance for you to take no damage on hit. And this is also your ship's actual shields from damage taken. This isn't the shielding of contraband you have on your ship, which is also going to be another system within the ships. Then we have missile weapon systems, increases the damage and range of your missile weapons. And then we have particle beam weapon systems, increases the damage and critical strike chance of the particle beam weapons on your ships. So like I mentioned, we're just getting more and more upgrades to the different types of weapons you can put on your ships. And as you've seen so far, there are going to be a ton of different weapon systems you can put on your ships that all do something a bit different. Then we have robotics, deal more damage to robots and turrets, and you can also force robots to stop fighting, flee, attack their allies, or to obey your commands. So I guess if there's going to be a planet completely overrun with robots, you may want to think about going into this. Then we have starship design, allows the installation of improved ship modules. So improved, superior, cutting edge, and then experimental ship modules. This is going to be very important if you want to continue to upgrade your ship with the higher modules with all the more expensive parts. And it's pretty interesting that at rank 4 you get experimental ship modules. I'm wondering how crazy of stuff you're going to be getting. Like, is this going to be stuff that may not work or may backfire, or is it just kind of the highest tier of stuff? Then we have starship engineering. Your ship's systems will repair faster. So if you take a bunch of damage, you can repair faster if you go into this skill. Then we have automated weapon systems. Automated ship weapons do more damage and reduce all targeting costs. And these automated weapon systems seem like they're going to be more traditional weapons like miniguns or something like that. The first thing I think of is in the Expanse TV show. Basically, all the ships just pop out a bunch of miniguns that auto-target ships around them. Then we have a boost assault training. Damage enemies with boost packs. So this one's actually kind of funny. Like at rank 1, nearby enemies take damage when you boost, and you can catch them on fire. So basically the booster on your jetpack that shoots out flames will now be damaging people, can catch them on fire. And the rank 3 of this is actually really cool. When you aim down sights while boosting, you now hover in place. Basically for as long as you want. It'll still be using fuel, but you can just be hovering in space shooting people from above. Then finally we have EM weapon systems, increases the damage of your EM weapons on your ships. And rank 4 of this seems really good. EM ship weapons have a small chance to instantly disable enemy engines. So you can instantly just basically destroy their engines or just disable them so they can't move around. They're going to be very easy to destroy or to board. So if you're somebody that really wants to be boarding and sealing ships, rank 4 of this is probably going to be very strong for that. So that's all 82 of the Starfield skills for all of the different categories and skill trees. And this will probably be uploaded the day before early access is released. So this is a really good time to learn about all of these skills, start maybe planning out your build a little bit and seeing what you want to go into. But that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.